Hello and welcome back to the channel. In today's tutorial I'm going to be sharing with you a requested video of how to cut an Elizabethan corset with a yoke. So if this is something you like, please don't forget to hit on the subscribe button, give this video a thumbs up. So let's dive right into today's video. So first, here is my pattern paper and we are going to go ahead to start drafting. And I've marked my basic measurements, which includes my shoulder to bust, shoulder to underbust, shoulder to waistline, and 5 inches after my waist to mark my top length. So next, I marked my shoulder divided by 2. After that, I came down by 1 inch from that point and I'm going to connect with my ruler and I'll go ahead to mark a shoulder slope. After that, I'll go ahead to mark a basic neckline of 3 by 3 inches, which will serve as a guide, but I will still go ahead to adjust it after I'm done cutting. Now, I'll just go ahead and place this and I will connect. Now, after I'm done connecting, the next is to find your chest line or your armhole line. To do that is your bust circumference divided by 6 plus 1.5 inches. So after doing that, mine is 7 and I'll make a dot on that point. Go ahead to draw out a straight line on that part. On that line, I'll mark what I have on the shoulder back and I'll place my ruler. Go ahead to draw a straight line connecting it. So next, I'll just go ahead to extend that line and I will be dividing my armhole into 2. I'll go ahead to place and fold my tape and I'm going to mark. From that point, I'm going to come in by half. Go ahead to mark my bust circumference divided by 4 at the lower part and I'll go ahead to connect from the armhole to the lower part and also extend to the shoulder point of my pattern. So this is what I have for my armhole curve, and next we're going to go ahead to mark my dart intake. And to do that is to mark your bust band divided by 2 or your nipple to nipple divided by 2. My nipple to nipple is 7 inches divided by 2. I have 3.5 inches. I'll just go ahead and mark. And I'll be taking this measurement all the way to the lower part of my pattern. And after I'm done doing that, I'll just go ahead to place my ruler and I'm going to connect and draw a straight line on this pattern. So after I'm done connecting this, the next step is to start marking your dart intake. So for my dart intake, I'll be marking 1 inch on both sides of my pattern and I'll take it all the way down to the lower part. So now if you're on the bigger size or you have a bigger bust, you're going to be using 1.5 inches on both sides of your dart intake. After I'm done connecting on this side, I'll also go ahead to connect on the other side of my pattern and I'll take it all the way to the top length. So next, I'll just go ahead and use my marker to mark this out. So I'm going to go ahead to place my curved rule and I'll connect to my underbust and I'll repeat the same process on the other side. And after this, I'll go ahead to use my marker to mark this out. So after I'm done marking this, I'm going to go ahead to divide my shoulder into 2, place my tape and I'll mark. Now I'll go ahead to connect that line down to my bust line. After I'm done marking that, I'll be coming up by 1.5 inches. That is where I want my cup to start. So you can use 2 inches, or if you don't want to reveal your cleavage, I'll go ahead and mark that same 1 inch dart intake I marked at the under bust. Now if you're busty or you're on the bigger side, you also be using 1.5 inches here, or you can also mark 2 inches on one side and use 1.5 inches on the other side, especially if your bust is big. This is to help contour the upper part of your dress. Now I'll just go ahead and connect this. So now I'll go ahead and mark my bust circumference divided by 4. Measure this dart intake. I will replace it on this side and add ½ inch for ease. Now at the underbust, I'll mark the underbust circumference divided by 4. Measure the dart intake, replace and add my sewing allowance. At the waist, I'll mark my actual waist circumference divided by 4. Measure the 2 inches dart intake, replace and add ½ inch for sewing allowance. Going down to the top length, I'll mark my hip circumference divided by 4. Measure this 2 inches dart intake and I'll add extra 1.5 inches to the hip measurement and add ½ inch back, because this dress has a slight conical effect on the hip or on the lower part of the dress. Now I'll just go ahead to connect my pattern, starting from the bust down to the underbust to the waist and to the top length. After I'm done marking this is what I have, and next we're going to go ahead to alter this pattern to get what we want. Now before doing that, I'll just go ahead to use my marker to outline this part of my pattern. So next, I'll go ahead and readjust my neckline. I'll mark 2 inches and I will reconnect. After I'm done reconnecting, I'll clean off the initial neckline that we have on that part. So after cleaning it off, I'll go ahead to draw out our new neckline for this pattern. If you notice, the neckline is a bit high, so that's why I'm using 3 by 2 inches. Now after I'm done doing that, I want to come down by 1 inch from my bust point, and I will just go ahead to use my freehand sketch to connect this all the way to the chest line. So after marking this, if you're not okay, you can still go ahead to adjust it. So that's why I use pencil to mark out my pattern first. Now I'll just go ahead to connect it to the chest line, and after that I'll just go ahead to draw a slight sweetheart neckline or a deep sweetheart neckline. So I'll connect this to the side, and because of this dart intake we have here, I'll just go ahead and extend my cup a little, and I'll just connect it down to the chest line or the armhole line and use my marker to outline this out. So this is what I have on this pattern after I'm done cutting this out. So I'll be coming out by 1.5 inches here, and I'll go ahead to connect it to my pattern. So this is the yoke of this pattern. If you notice, the shoulder did not start at the shoulder point, it went in. So I used 1.5 inches. You can also use 2 inches. So after connecting it, I'm just going to go ahead to connect at this point to show that I have a yoke at the upper part of this pattern. So now to mark the lower part, I'll just go ahead to blend in my dart this way, then connect from the lower part, and I'll just go up to create that design, come up by 1.5 inches from the side, and I'm just going to go ahead to connect it to the end of my pattern this way. So if you're not okay with what you have, you can also go ahead to readjust to suit you. So after this, I'll just go ahead to use my marker to outline the rest of my pattern. So after I'm done doing this, the next step is to create a style line, because we want to go ahead and snatch our waistline. So after marking this, to snatch your waistline, we want to take out 4 inches from the waistline, and to do that, that 4 inches you want to take out, you're going to divide it by 4. So if you divide it by 4, you find out that you have 1 inch on the front side of the pattern. On the left front part, you have 1 inch. At the back also, you'll be having the same. So I'll mark ½ inch on both sides. ½ inch on both sides of this pattern will give me 1. So by the time you take out this 1 inch from this front side of the right part, take it from the left part, and at the back you're going to do the same thing, taking out 1 inch on each part of the back. You end up having or snatching out 4 inches from your waistline. So I'll just go ahead and use my marker to outline my pattern to make it more visible for you to see. So after I'm done labeling, I'll just go ahead and label my pattern. So now take note of your underbust, and I will label or draw out the rest of my pattern. So for this pattern, I did not use a bust dart. If you actually added a bust dart to yours, you can just go ahead to blend it out also. So I made this pattern beginner friendly. So after that, I went ahead to attach a pattern paper at the upper part, because we are going to be replacing the upper parts with these parts we are going to cut right now. I don't know if I'm making sense, but if you're not understanding what I'm saying, please leave your question at the comment section. So I'll just go ahead and cut out and make sure that it is directly at my under bust, because you're going to be cutting out a bustier that you'll be using to replace the upper part of this pattern. So now I'll just go ahead to cut out, and while cutting out, I'm going to take note of the under bust area. So that's why I went ahead to cut out that pattern and make sure that it was exactly at my under bust. So I'll just go ahead and cut the rest of the pattern. So watch me while I'm doing that also. So at this point, if you haven't yet subscribed, please don't forget to hit on the subscribe button. Give this video a thumbs up. Leave your comment at the comment section. If you also have any question, please go ahead and also leave it at the comment section. So after I'm done cutting out my pattern, I'm just going to take out the part I have underneath it, and I'll cut the rest of my pattern before I'll go ahead to replace it. So I went ahead to chop out that upper part, and you'll be replacing it with the bustier pattern after you're done cutting and sewing your dress. So next, we're going to go ahead to work on the back pattern, and for the back pattern, I've gone ahead to mark my basic measurements just like we did for the front. The only difference is that I don't have an underbust measurement at the back. So after that, I'm just going to go ahead to draw my darts, and I'll be marking my nipple to nipple divided by 2. So actually on the dress we have a zipper, but for my own pattern I'll be marking it without a zipper. I want to add a lacing bar area to the back of this dress because we have already snatched out 4 inches from the waistline, and which might be difficult to fit with a zipper. So after that, I marked 1/2 inch on both sides of my waistline. I extended the line up, and I'll go ahead to extend it all the way down. So after I'm done marking this, I'll just go ahead and insert my body measurement. I'm going to be marking my bust circumference divided by 4 and add 1/2 inch for ease. Mark my waist circumference divided by 4 and measure this dart intake, replace and add 1/2 inch also for ease. So after I'm done marking that, at the top length, I'll mark my waist circumference divided by 4, measure the 2 inches, that is the 2 inches we added for the conical effect, and 1/2 inch for sewing allowance. So I marked it together at once when I was cutting this out or marking it out. So I'll just go ahead and connect my pattern, and I'm going to be using my marker to outline this to make it visible for you to see. So after I'm done doing this right now, I'm just going to go ahead to draw another style line because I want to snatch my waist also. So the same 1/2 inch we marked on both sides, I'll mark it, making it 1 inch. So by the time you snatch out this 1 inch on both sides of your back pattern and repeat the same thing for the front, you'll be having 4 inches taken out from your waistline. So I went ahead to extend the dart down, and after that I'll be marking my lacing bar area, and I'm using 1.5 inches. So this 1.5 inches is not a standard. So I'll go ahead to connect this, and after I'm done connecting, I'm just going to go ahead to make a dot to indicate that I have a lacing bar at that point. So I'll just go ahead and use my marker to outline the rest of my pattern so that it's going to be very visible for you to see. So this is the dots that I'm actually marking out. So after I'm done doing that, I'll go ahead and mark the lower part of my pattern out, the design I have there, and here I'll come down by 1 or 1/2 inch, and from that part I'll be connecting it all the way down this way. So after I'm done connecting, I'm going to come from the chest line and go in just like we have on the thumbnail, but the only difference is that I don't have a zipper allowance here. I'll mark 0.25 inches or 0.5. This is just to take out the bulginess at the lower part of the dress. So at the shoulder part, I'll go ahead and mark that 1.5 inches and connect my yoke back just like we have for the front pattern, and I'll just label this, and the next step is just to go ahead to label my pattern, and I'll be cutting this out. So at this point, if you find this tutorial very interesting and educative, please don't forget to hit on the subscribe button, give this video a thumbs up, leave your comments at the comment section, and you can also subscribe to our second YouTube channel at Marky's Closet. There we have both drafting and sewing tutorial. So see you in our next video. Thanks.